Alright, so it's August of 2010, and my buddy Xander calls me up and he says, listen man, there's this audition, and it's for the lead in the Rocky Horror Show, and I need your help. It's tomorrow. And this is kind of typical Xander. It's, he's a pretty last minute kind of guy. And it's not altogether surprising either that Xander has the crazy confidence enough to not only go for the lead in a hit musical, but think he can do it the day before. And also, forgive me for just being a little bit skeptical that he could pull it off, seeing as he hadn't sang or acted in over 7 years. But nevertheless, we jump in his car and we go on this kind of madcap adventure to get our hands on the Rocky Horror DVD and then to find an outfit for Xander for this audition the next day. And a typical Saturday afternoon with my buddy Xander, we're walking the aisles of Value Village looking for something lacy we can dress him up in. 2 guys in their 20s shopping for stilettos and fishnet stockings. And that evening we have kind of a late night crash course, and Xander crams for the role, and he just absorbs the role of Frankenfurter. So the next day, Xander is at his audition, and he is there strutting around in his high heels, singing, "I'm just a sweet transvestite." And typical, amazing Xander, my friend, holy crap, he gets the role. And as August transitions into September, Xander is at his rehearsals on a daily basis down at Nanaimo Center Stage. I, on the other hand, am getting extremely ill. I have something called Crohn's disease, which is a disease of the digestive tract. And my intestines are so messed up that they've carved this little tunnel into my abdomen and created this pocket of infection there. It's this abscess, and every time I eat or drink anything, it is growing inside of me bigger and bigger, and I am in agony. And I wind up in the hospital in Vancouver, St. Paul's. It's this big brick building in downtown Burrard Street. It's a Catholic hospital, which basically means that the only difference is that it's got little tiny dying Jesuses over every doorway. And the doctors there, they sit me down and they say, listen, Trevor, the only way this infection is going to heal is if you completely stop eating and drinking. And their idea of healing me is to put me on the stuff called TPN. And TPN, I forget what it exactly stands for. It's total something nutrition. It's getting everything you need to survive through a tube into your bloodstream. And so here I am, I'm hooked up to this thing. It's on an IV pole. It looks like a big 4-liter bag of milk. And it smells like deep fryer grease. It's got all the fat and electrolytes and vitamins and calories you need to survive, and it's pumped into me on a 24-hour cycle into this PICC line in my arm. And I'm there, the weeks are passing, and I'm haunting the hallways of St. Paul's Hospital, dragging this pole around with me. It's like my girlfriend. And I'm not in a happy camper. The pain in my abdomen has subsided a bit, but I am bored out of my mind, and I'm starving. And this clawing hunger inside of me is it's gripping me. And it's the end of October, and the Rocky Horror Show has debuted back in Nanaimo, and I'm missing it. And the only thing I miss more than eating is the fact is that I'm missing this show and my friends and Xander's performance. And I don't know I'm not sure whose idea it was. I think it was a nurse, actually, who came up with this brilliant idea that this TPN stuff, it can be infused at a quicker rate. They could pump it into me double time. And this would allow me to unhook from, this ball and chain thing that I was on for long enough for me to get out on a day pass from the hospital. So on November 13th, 2010, at 4 p.m., they unhook me and I get out of my day pass and I go downstairs and I grab a taxi from Burrard Street, St. Paul's Hospital, and I fly down Burrard Street and I grab a Harbour Air flight back home, and within an hour I'm back home in Nanaimo. And my parents pick me up on the other side, and after a slightly awkward dinner where they eat, apologetically, very apologetically in front of me, I don't mind at this point, I'm just happy to be home, but we all get in the car and we go down to Nanaimo Center Stage. And there I'm greeted by two of my best friends, Darwin and Farrell, and their whole families are there. And we are escorted to our front row seats at the front of the theater by the usherettes in their little pillbox hats and their little silk ties and their short shorts. And they proceed to take us through all the protocols of the audience participation. Because it's Rocky Horror, you gotta do the audience participation. And then the lights dim and the crowd goes quiet and the show is about to begin. And I'm sitting there in the front row and I'm just trembling with anticipation. And I'll tell you, it's November 13th, 8 o'clock in 2010. It's like almost to the hour 3 years ago today. The first act opens, and there's Brad and Janet, and they're driving along that old road, and their car's broken down outside of the old mansion. And they're greeted at the front door by the very creepy hunchback Riff Raff. And then there he is, in all his transvestite glory. It's Frankenfurter. And for the next 2 hours, I am completely transported away. And this body of mine that's given me so much suffering over the years, it just completely dissolves. And I completely forget the TPN, and I completely forget the hospital. And this clawing hunger that's been gripping me for over a month now has just disappeared as well. And it's 2 hours of bliss. And all good things do have to come to an end. So at the final act, as the climax is, it's reached its climax, and the final, I guess you got the double entendre there. The show's reached its climax, and the final song is about to begin. And one of the usherettes comes down and grabs Farrell from the seat beside me and hauls him up onto stage. And another one comes down and grabs me by the hand, and I'm pulled up onto stage. And here I am, blinded by the stage lighting, with my best friend Farrell beside me on my left, and my best friend Frankenfurter beside me on my right. And the music begins. It's just a jump to the left, and a step to the right. And the whole cast and I are at the front of the stage, and we're all singing and dancing in a line. Put your hands on your hips, and pull your knees in tight. And Brad, or maybe it was Xander himself, saunters over, and he puts a feather boa around my neck. But it's the pelvic thrust that really drives you insane. And everyone I love seems to be in this mass of people all dancing and singing before me. Let's do the time warp again. And I realize that I am doing the time warp. And only hours ago, I was in a hospital bed on what amounted to life support in Vancouver. Let's do the time warp again. Everybody sing it with me one more time. Let's do the time warp again. Woo! And then then just like that, it's all over. And I hug my friends, and I go home that night, and I sleep in my own bed. And the next morning, I catch the first flight back to Vancouver. And at the hospital, I'm hooked up on TPM. But this time I've got a smile on my face and a feather boa around my neck. And I'd be on that TPN stuff for 10 long, really brutal months. But yeah, it was the memory of that show that really made it a whole lot easier.